here you are at 24 to 36 weeks. For many of us as women and for men, this is like a golden period in pregnancy, so enjoy it. You can feel your baby, and that is absolutely a remarkable experience. Woman's belly is growing bigger. The uterus is now at the navel and is growing every day. So by 36 weeks, it's going to be under her rib cage and she's going to be quite out front. It's a time where women feel beautiful. It's a time where other people look at women, and there's this human spirit that recognizes that another life is there. Women glow, and you glow. And it's always been sort of sad to us as birthing better families that there's not more attention to men and how pregnancy is impacting you. So we want to talk today about how do you take advantage of this period of time. And really in some ways you have to ask the woman's permission, because it's her body, to want to feel your baby and want to investigate with your baby. That's why Birthing Better families, when they develop the Birthing Better skills that you'll find at birthingbetter.org, we begin to prepare our body for birth. And what does it mean that we prepare our body? Well, men begin to be aware of the fact that this is a big object and that it's going to get bigger. So 24 weeks, you have another 4 months where this baby is going to grow bigger. And that baby has to come out of the woman's container. So we begin to prepare the body. We don't prepare the head so much as we prepare the pelvis. And at 32 weeks, we begin to prepare the inside of the vagina. And men were the ones who developed most of these skills because they really understood that it's an exercise in plumbing. A big object has to open up, come down through and out a container. What can I do to open up the container? And this course was not about that. And the specific skills are on our birthingbetter.org website. But when you think about the pelvis, you have a pelvis. Do you know there are 4 bones? Do you know how any of them move? Can you feel any of them move? And if you're going, no, 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 she's probably going, no, 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 too, which means that you get to learn together. Now, the big hip bones, they meet at the middle of the pubic arch, and there's a cartilage there. And they wrap around until you get to that place where you have that bump in your back. It's over the sacrum, which is the triangle at the end of your spine. So the sacrum is one of the bones. Those big hip bones are in the back. They go to the side where your leg bones, all the way to pubic bone. Even the bones you're sitting on now are part of those 2 big bones. And the 4th bone is your tailbone. Now, most people don't even think about their tailbone. But if your partner's tailbone is long, and they can be as long as your little finger, and your baby is moving through the space inside those bones and comes up against the tailbone, it has nerves in it, and she can be left with damage to her tailbone for the rest of her life, where it's sore whenever she sits on it. So you want to understand the space that the baby is going to go through and how to create space. The space, the outlet, is what we're going to talk about today, because the other videos, as I said, are on the birthingbetter.org website. So all of us have a pelvis. And if you go to Google and look at one, you might compare a woman's pelvis to a man's pelvis. And the comparison is actually when you look in from the top, which you can't feel because that's above your pubic bone, and you look down to where the end of the sacrum and the tailbone is, it actually looks like a mouse's face, right? So from the tip of the tailbone up and then around, you have a mouse's face. That's why men have a Mickey Mouse face and women have a Minnie Mouse face, because women's pelvises have the space for a baby to go through it, where men's pelvis don't. So if you go onto Google and ask to see a woman's pelvis, you will see that if you look through that hole, there's a Minnie Mouse, bigger space. Good, baby. Yours is smaller. But what you're sitting on now, those sit bones, and you can feel where your tailbone is, and you can feel your pubic arch, is the outlet. And your baby needs to come through that outlet. That outlet doesn't change unless you learn how to create more space. But you can find out what that shape is so that you know what your baby has to come through. And it's a good idea to have your pregnant partner do this on you first, so you understand that you are probably never going to get a baby out of your pelvis, even though you have the same bones, and you can look through it and see it, because men have a narrow pubic arch, space between their sit bones are narrower, and the distance from their pubic bone to their tailbone is narrower. Women, it's broader. And what's an ample pelvis? So if you have a woman lying on her back and she puts her knees up with her feet on the ground, and you find those sit bones and have her reach down and help you find each one, then you find the sit bones. Can you get your fist in between the sit bones? And if you can, she's got space, because babies' heads are like the size of a grapefruit, sort of like a fist, right? So if the distance between the sit bones, you can get your fist through, then she's got space. Same when she gets to help you find where the pubic arch is, which is the beginning of the vagina. And then if you go straight back to her tailbone, if you can get a fist that way, then if you drew a picture, it would be pretty much sort of a circle. You also want to feel what the pubic arch is like. Is it curved like that? Most women have that. Some don't. They have slightly narrower curve. Some have quite a narrower curve. But women have a narrower curve because that pubic arch is where those sit bones are. Usually with a narrower curve, those sit bones are closer together. But with a narrow curve, often the length from the front to back is longer, which means when you're thinking logistically as a man, which dimensions can your babies use, right? So if you're pretty much equal side to side and front to back, the baby can come out through any of that dimension. If you find that the woman is very wide between her sit bones and quite narrow front to back, the baby will use the bigger dimension. Same way if you are longer or more open front to back. That's often why babies get into certain positions, because they have to come through this bony structure. So by learning what the map is, then you can begin to fiddle around with figuring out how to create space. And this course isn't to teach you those things, but because you're 24 weeks to 36 weeks, the more you know about this container and what this object has to do to get out of this container, the more you can help the woman keep her container open. So how could she keep her container open? Same way that you do. When you're sitting on the chair now, even though you have a smaller outlet, scoot so that you make those sit bones as far apart as possible. Even a little bit of space is better than not creating the space. Now get up. What happens when you stand up? That space closes. So you now have to relax down there so that space opens up. We created practical skills, and now you need to think practically. Think plumbing. Big object has to move down through and out a container. How do I keep this container open? So those two skills make space in the pubic bone. When you stand up, soften so that space is available. And one more thing. Often women are told that they should birth by sitting back, putting their knees up. It's called a semi-recumbent position. But notice, you close off the sacrum. Your baby needs to move that bone out. So you don't want to close off the sacrum. She doesn't want to. It's harder. So how could you sit to one side? Then the sacrum would be flexible, and you can try rocking your sacrum. Or put one foot up so that your knee's bent, your foot's on the ground, and the other leg is tucked up underneath you, so you're sitting on the side. Or kneeling instead of on two knees, kneel on one knee with one leg up and the foot on the ground. Play around with your body, because the more you understand what opens your body, the more you can help her open her body. Because all birthing better skills, just like patience, attention to detail, they're human qualities. This course is more about the choices of thinking, whereas from 24 weeks onward, it's more about the pragmatics of preparing your body and learning the skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby.